God damn. Thoughts rushed through my mind as I tried to decide what to do. Women, old men, and kids, obviously non-combatants. But this is a free fire zone. There are not supposed to be civilians in this area. Yeah, but dinks occasionally ignore those warnings about free fire areas. Maybe they're the point element for Viet Cong or NVA traveling behind them. Maybe they're supposed to give the warning if stopped. It's happened before. In that case, some of my men could come under fire and be killed or wounded. 4-6 killed that one dink last evening, and he had a Thompson. There was a whole squad of Kong in that group. There was some incoming fire when we made the LZ. A dink tried to cross the dike last night. These people look innocent enough. They may be carrying supplies for the Kong in the area, food and or ammo. It's a free fire zone. Everyone is supposed to be considered enemy. I'm responsible for my men. They'll get killed if I make the wrong decision. These dinks coming toward us mean nothing to me. My men mean everything. What if the dinks aren't innocent? My men depend on me to keep them alive. I spoke softly to the men around me. It's a lick on them. When I give the order, open fire. I brought up the M16 to sight in on the dinks. Spag was standing to my right, his M60 machine gun supported on his hip by a sling around his neck and shoulder. He reached over and touched my arm. His whispered voice reflected the agony of doubt in his face. No, sir, you can't. Kids, women. He motioned toward the file of people coming towards us. I felt ashamed. Spag was right. Wait one, I whispered to the men around me. I'll call for them to surrender. I felt relieved. Capturing them was the best solution. If they were the point for a VC group, I would just make sure none of us was exposed to fire when we captured this point. The dinks were almost to the intersection. I stepped through the brush with some of my men. Dung Lui, I warned. They were only 10 to 20 meters from us. They all glanced at us, standing with our weapons trained on them. We had them dead to rights. They had no cover and no place to run to. A perfect capture situation. Almost in mid-stride, they all moved with astonishing speed. The two boys in the point split up. The one ran past us, heading down the trail past the schoolhouse. The other boy, the woman, the old men started running back toward the bridge. Stop! Dung Lui! I yelled to no avail. I could not order the men to run after them. It could be a trap. Neither could I let them get away. Why were they running? In the split second those thoughts ran across my consciousness, I gave the order to open fire. An irrevocable wave of death swept in front of us. After the initial burst of gunfire, I yelled, "Cease fire." The two women survived long enough to cross the bridge and enter one of the hooches. 3 of my men crossed over the bridge and threw grenades in the hooches. We hurriedly looked over the bodies on the trail since they were lying in the open and we had no desire to be caught exposed. The men reported that some of the dead had been carrying hand grenades in their ammo packs. I felt somewhat relieved. Those supplies could not have been for anyone but the Kong. I received a report from the squad down the trail. The firing had alerted them barely fast enough to fire at the teenager running toward them down the trail. Someone hit him in the shoulder and knocked him down. Surprisingly, the boy had jumped up and run past the squad to safety somewhere in the brush. I had no pleasure in reporting to Delta 6 that we had killed 6 dinks and 1 wounded. I knew he would ask how many weapons we had captured. I stared at the gray horizon for a long time before answering that the dinks were not carrying weapons, only supplies and grenades. I felt low. This putrid war. I thought of so many ways I could have done it differently. So easy to think afterward. After all, now I knew there was no dink squad behind on the trail. This episode would be the darkest of my career. I called my men together for a march up the slight hill to Delta 6's position, forcing the dinks out of my mind. Now that's from a book that we're looking at tonight, It's called The Killing Zone. My Life in the Vietnam War by Fredrick Downs.